Hello everyone, here I am. My name is Paul Joseph. I've been in the fashion and beauty business for the past 40 years. And I am, here we are on part two of hair coloring for hairdressers. Or I'm just sharing my experience of the last 40 years, what I've learned, and maybe share these experiences so maybe you can learn something or get something out of it, I hope. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. If you're not, if you've been here before, I always ask you to make comments or ask me questions if you need to. Maybe you want to suggest something that you want to hear from me. As someone who's been in those businesses for the past 40 years. I will also be sharing about my personal life. And in the background, we're having Simon Dunmore playing with his sons, I think, and music that I love. I mean, from disco, I went to this, and this is like heaven, to go to a club and dance. Even at my age, I don't mind going to clubs with friends and just dancing. Anyways, so let's get with it with the hair coloring. As I've said before, I've expressed before that this is a very visual business, the hairdressing, makeup, beauty. And it's about perception. So we need to, be very good in choosing and researching our materials, whether it's the products that we use, the equipment that we use, like, combs, brushes, all that stuff, scissors, shears. Cutting shears, blow dryers, everything. Everything is all part of this whole thing. But the one thing I want to say, as far as hair coloring, the one thing that's very, very important, and in this business in general, the fashion and the beauty business, is the color wheel. As colorists, as makeup artists, we need to, and even just hairdressers, if you don't do color, at least you should know it in case you need to suggest to your client, colors that she may be able to wear as far as clothes, or maybe suggest hair color, and then ask somebody, of your coworkers that do color, say, I think, she could use either an ash color, a red color, an auburn, whatever. So how do we do that? But first, let me talk about choosing your color brands. As we know, there's been technology has changed quite a bit in 40 years. When I started, yes, there were professional tube colors. Anything that comes in a tube is considered professional. When I started in school, basically what I had was the bottle, Wella Color Charm, Clairol Nice and Easy, or Miss Clairol, L'Oreal Excellence and Preference. What else? Helen Curtis. What else was out there? I can't remember. There were, if you knew how to use them, they were fine. The only thing that we had to be very careful with was the amount of ammonia, and it's those are colors that you need to be very careful using them, because of the high ammonia, it makes the color stain more. So. In other words, you can't use those colors and put them from root to end and expect a perfect color from root to end. If you do that, your ends will end up being black. Yes. I still use them to my last day in the salon, for certain things, not for just anything. For glazings, for hair, like hairline, if I needed to break up a little bit of the darkness when I did highlights, so it'll blend a little better, the highlights and the hairline. And I had some clients that they just needed a little bit of like quick blonde color, that it would, in these glazings, it would work in 8 minutes. And also to do like low lights. I liked it for low lights, especially when you use like a light to medium brown, and things like that. So like I said, it's a very visual business. I like to, when I choose my colors, it has to be with how they look, how they're perceived. If they're an acceptable color, if it's a natural looking color, I was always looking for something that was very deep, like a deep, very dense color, dense in the sense that that it had color, because there's a lot of color lines out there that I don't know. I guess they don't have enough tint or pigment in their color, so it just would look a little too translucent. And in a way, for me, it would look a little cheap. Cheap, and it just the color just wouldn't translate. I just didn't like it. It would look fake. So moving forward, so as you go, I think when you're starting, you start in salons that already have their own color line, so you learn how to use those. And if you move to another salon, they may have a different color line that you have to learn how to use. And luckily, there's at least 4 color lines that I know that you can pretty much transfer your formulas from one color line to another. And those color lines are Alpha Parf, Majorelle, Igora, and Top Chic. Pretty much if I had my formulas in my head, and I knew, looking at the color charts and the numbers and all that stuff, that I would know how to pretty much decide, that I could use the line. So, and the difference between the tube colors were considered the professional lines because they have a lot less ammonia. Clients didn't have to come with clean hair. I mean, I always ask them to, that don't come in with hair that it's like more than a week dirty. It's like, please, it's like, that's disgusting. But it didn't have to be squeaky clean, like with the bottle ones with the high ammonia. Yes, it's better if you leave it as dirty as possible, because then your scalp wouldn't get burned or sensitized or whatever. So for me, I've worked with all of them. I've worked with, like I said, I've worked with Wella Color Charm, Clairol Miss Nice and Easy, L'Oreal Excellence and Preference, Helen Curtis. I don't know if I mentioned it in the past that it was there, and then as far as the professional colors, I used the Matrix, I've used Fermisi, I've used Logix. Oh, and there was another. I'll get back to that. Logix. It was great for colorists because they were pure pigments in different levels. So you basically had to mix at least two or three tubes, different colors, to get the color you really wanted. You know what I'm saying? So I worked also with, like I said, Igora, Majorelle, Top Chic, and the Alpha Parf. Can't remember if Evolutions, I think it was called, the color. But there were also, I forgot to mention, there were one called Torrids of Clairol, one of the little bottles, which it was these really bright reds, and this was back in the 80s. There was also these other ones, I think it was Beautiful Browns. I can't remember, and I looked them up in Google, but I couldn't find them. And but I think that's what it was called, and it was they were designed to just deposit color. But I don't know, maybe they changed the name. Maybe. Oh, and Rue. I forgot about Rue. Rue was great, and then Revlon bought it, and they were around for a while, and but then they disappeared. So color ingredients. I guess I'll leave the color ingredients for the part 3. We'll talk about those things. There's also like High Lift Blonde, Magi Blonde was an excellent color. I used to do highlights over color, with Magi Blonde, and I would get good results. Nice soft beigey highlights with Magi Blonde, and what else? So anyways, moving forward, then when your client comes in, you do a consultation, and you have to. When your client comes in, and let's use the example of somebody who comes in new, somebody you don't know. First thing you're going to do, of course, you're going to appreciate personal beauty, if, how well they're fixed up, like their hair, their makeup, their clothes, all that stuff. But as soon as the client walks into the door, you need to start analyzing this client. Look at the hair, look at the haircut. Does she have highlights? Doesn't she? What does the hair look like? Is it the right color for the skin tone? Because this is something you need to look at. Skin tone and color of eyes. The color of eyes will say so much for you as a colorist. What can you suggest? So another thing that was big for me was to ask for pictures. Clients think that they know what they want and they know how to explain what they want. 90% of the time they don't. So I needed a picture for them to tell me what they're looking for, so that I know what's in their mind, because if they try and explain to you, and it has happened to me in the beginning, where I would do what the client wanted and, or what I thought they wanted. Oh my God, it was a disaster, and I have to make sure, one of the things in my consultations, which was one of the biggest parts of the success in my business, is a consultation can make you or break you, and I made the pertinent questions so that at the end of the date or the appointment, they couldn't come back to me and say, no, I didn't ask for this, or no, I didn't do this, so I would have to either correct or do something and then I would lose money and time. And that's another thing, time is money. And I'll have a complete episode about time, because that's one thing I was taught in school. Time is money, time is gold. And so anyways, so in the consultation, you pretty much figure out everything. The level, the accent color, is it a different color? Are you just touching up what they already have? And that's it. And so, and like I've mentioned before, the peroxides. If the color comes in about, let's say, well, for example, just for argument's sake, let's talk about the bottle. So the bottle was a 2 ounce. My color teacher told me that if the color doesn't come with any instructions and you don't know how the hell to mix it, each bottle that is a 2 ounce bottle, and this works for tubes and whatever. If it's a 2 ounce bottle, it's equal parts of peroxide to the product. If it's 1.5 ounces, you have to mix double. So anything that's an ounce and a half, you put 3 ounces of peroxide. So you would end up with 4.5 ounces of product. And then, the volumes, that's arbitrary. You decide what you want to do. But you have to keep in mind, and we'll talk it in a different, and probably the next episode, because I don't want to make these things more than 15 minutes. And before my time is over, please subscribe. If you're new, please subscribe. If you like what you heard, I would like to hear comments. If you didn't like what you heard, please make comments. If you want to add to what I said, please, I'm welcome to do that, and then we can have a rapport. We can talk about this, and and like I said, this is the first time, and this is kind of like walking out of my comfort zone, out of my box, and I hope that up till now we can. You're interested enough that you want to continue to hear what I have to say as far as there's a lot to be said. I imagine 40 years of experience learning things about this business. Please, and in your comments also, it would help me to come up with topics to talk about. If there's something in specific that you want me to talk about, I said, please make the comments and subscribe. And you know what? I'm going to leave it at this because it's coming up to the 15 minutes. And in the next episode, I will talk about application, deciding what peroxides, how to formulate, or how I learned how to formulate. And I think I've mentioned that L'Oreal had a great, things I learned with L'Oreal. I'm sure other companies, maybe they had their way of teaching it. I didn't, maybe the way they did it, I didn't understand, but, we'll see. So thank you for listening, and I hope you click to the next hair coloring part 3. Thank you. Thank you for being here.